Do you want to be able to absolutely dominate high mythic tier dungeons and absolutely decimate the level 50 to 100 gap, as well as get insanely fast clears with dungeons, all while being able to hit massive crits, sometimes near 500 to even 600,000, and room for even way more? Do I got the build for you? What's up, World Sorcerer, back in the video, and we're checking out all things Diablo 4. Okay, but before we jump into the actual build, if you want to be able to check out unique builds like this one, then check out today's sponsor. Mobalytics is an insanely intuitive and innovative app that lets you deep dive into an incredible amount of useful tools for all your build creation needs. And this free application, and yes, you heard me right, it is completely free. This app has helped me so much with my build creations and comparing and contrasting different statistics. I was able to find incredibly interesting and different unique builds compared to mine, and even got to try out CRITS' ultimate fire sork. I love being able to glance over at my stat priorities and build priorities just right within the game. And you can download the app with my link down below completely free, which will enter you in a free giveaway of Statue of Inarius and Lilith, as well as 10 Diablo 4 collection giveaways. Thank you again to Mobalytics for sponsoring this video. Okay, so let's get into the build. So first up, we do have the skill tree. We'll go over the skill tree very quickly, then we'll go over the Paragon board and the gear that I'm using right now, as well as the legendaries that I'm also using. Okay, so let's jump into the skill tree very quickly. We'll go over it very fast, try to go over it brief, all the talent points that we're using, why we're using them, what we could swap out for, things of that nature. Okay, so first up, we actually are taking Firebolt for this build, and I'll explain why, because we are going to use that enchant, which is really good. The damage doesn't really matter with Firebolt, but we are looking for the actual enchant itself. Now, we do have to take 2 in order to get into this section. I had some comments in my last video that were talking about why do we need to take this skill. In order for us to jump into the second portion here, we have to put 2 points in. So we are going to put 2 points into Firebolt. We want it anyways for the enchant, but that's why you have to do it. We're moving on to here. We're going to go into Ice Shards. You're probably going to want to go into 3 or 4 before you reach this point, or at least 2. And then we'll go into Enhanced Ice Shards as well as a Destructive Ice Shards, which will give us that vulnerability attack. Really useful. These you will skip for now while leveling. So if you are leveling, if you're not level 50, you will skip for now. If not, go ahead and slap 1 point in here and 1 point into here. This will give you a little bit of bonus damage. Moving on to here, we'll go into Flame Shield. We do really need Flame Shield. It's very nice. You can also go into Deep Freeze, which I'll talk about later, but Flame Shield I prefer much more so. We're also going to go into Enhanced Flame Shield, which grants us the movement speed. But what we really want is that Mystical Flame Shield, which grants us the mana reduction cost while using it. So you're constantly proccing this and using it, as well as Ice Armor. Now, I will say I would go into Ice Armor before Flame Shield if you are leveling, and then I would go into Enhanced Ice Armor, and then Frost Nova. We're going to kind of max out here, but maybe we'll wait till later to max it out if you are leveling, but we'll at least get that 1 point in there for now. We'll also get Enhanced Frost Nova, and then we'll get that Mystical Frost Nova. This is very much needed. This is going to make the enemies vulnerable, increase the damage that we do overall. We're also going to go into Glass Cannon. This one I would do either right away before Ice Armor or after Ice Armor. Again, if you are leveling, if you can handle the damage, then go into Glass Cannon. If not, grab Ice Armor, then go into Glass Cannon, and then maybe Flame Shield. Moving on, we do want to grab Teleport. You might have this on a piece already, if not, but do put 1 point into Teleport. Now, we do also have Elemental Attunement here, which gives us the lucky hit chance to reset our defensive cooldowns. Realistically, again, while you're leveling, you're probably not going to want to put points into this. You really want to just kind of get those abilities out and damage out at the start. I would definitely recommend waiting on this until a little bit later in your like 30s or 40s. Moving on, again, Precision Magic here. I would wait on this one as well. These are kind of these two I would really kind of wait on until later levels in the 30s and 40s. Otherwise, we do want to grab the Align the Elements right away. This is a must to grab because it's going to give us a lot of damage mitigation. Moving on to here, we'll only put 1 point into Icy Veil, and we'll max out Cold Front, and we'll also max out Snap Freeze. We're also going to go into Blizzard, one of our main abilities here. We'll try to pump this out as high as we can, although Blizzard damage doesn't matter as much as some other things. And then here's the special change that I did with this build. I honestly didn't, I should have done a better job looking at through the trees of the burning damage side of things, but we're actually grabbing this because this deals 30% increased critical strike damage against burning enemies. If they are also immobilized, this bonus is increased to 75%. The reason why you want to take this is because with the skill assignment or our skill enchantment, we are actually gaining a fire on literally every enemy. So that's going to help us with damage a ton. Definitely a must there. We're going to come down to here. We're going to max out this entire board here. We're going to get Permafrost maxed out. We're going to get Hoarfrost maxed out, Frigid Breeze maxed out, and Icy Touch maxed out. While you're leveling, as soon as this passive, the key passives open up, so whenever time this is when you're leveling this stuff, grab the passive as soon as you can because it's going to get clear casting, which essentially allows us to cast for free. Now, moving on to the gear stuff, the traits don't matter as much. I'm still working on fixing a lot of the traits here, but we can go through we have a barrier legendary on the headpiece. We have the armor legendary on the chest piece, which you can then swap these out. These are kind of interchangeable also with the pants. Come down here to gloves, and we have the increased barrier damage. On the pants right now, this one is kind of controversial. I'm still not sure what to put on this, but we take 22% less damage from crowd control or vulnerable enemies. This one we also do probably really want. It's a 20% increased crowd control damage or duration, and then we also do increased damage to unstoppable enemies. Enemies become unstoppable a lot of times in these later level dungeons, especially T64, T60s, and T57s, these higher nightmares. They're really going to be becoming unstoppable. Even if we are outputting a lot of damage, they still are becoming unstoppable. Moving on, we also want to take this one to increase our critical strike chance on the injured enemies, and you also gain 40% increased crowd control duration if you're healthy, which is awesome. Here's a big controversial one that I'm probably going to swap out later or might keep on. I'm still not sure, although if you looked at my last build video, this is actually bugged for me. I cannot take this legendary off, so it's unfortunately stuck on my offhand. This is the best offhand I have, so it's kind of there. Ice Spikes is not bad. It's definitely decent. Next up, we have Avalanche on one of our rings, and this is another change. Skills deal up to 20% increased damage based on your available primary resource. We are going to take this one. I think it's great. It's not very conditional. It's only conditional on our mana. There's a few things that we could swap out here. Core or Mastery skills cast at above 100 mana gain 40% increased critical strike chance, but from our Paragon board, some other things, I didn't quite take this, although this is really, really strong, and this might be a swap that you do on that. Last but not least, we have deal 47% more damage to immobilized, stunned, or frozen enemies. Definitely a must for clearing dungeons. Definitely a must for that stuff. If you're fighting Lilith, this is where I would make the change to, is this one, and possibly throw this one on there to get that increased critical strike damage. Would probably throw that on our amulet, or I'm talking about the primary resource we swapped to up here. We would just swap those out, and we would swap basically this one, because this is probably not going to be needed on things like Lilith. Okay, so quickly we'll go over the Paragon board. I'm going to have this all online so you can kind of utilize this and what my root is. We really don't care about the root as much, although it is big for like non-physical damage. But what we have is our glyph sockets here. Now, I've seen a lot of different takes on these, but I really do enjoy Enchanter at my first slot. This gives us 81% non-physical damage. We also have here a 67% damage while healthy. That's going to be Imbiber. Over here we have 76% damage to crowd control. Very, very huge. Our control a socket or glyph. Coming down to here, we have another glyph socket, which is Destruction. Gives us 72% or 77% rather critical strike damage with core skills. And then last but not least, down here we have the vulnerable damage. This one, it doesn't provide a lot of vulnerable damage, especially if you don't have, and well, I have 34 of 25 decks, so it's pretty high, although there is a few boards that have 40 and beyond, which we could look at later on. There's a few things here that I'm not sure if I want to optimize yet. We do have to waste 2 talent points here for conjuration skills, which we don't use for this dexterity. I'm still looking what I could do with this last board. I might swap it out for something different. However, I really did like that there was non-physical damage right here. A lot of non-physical damage, 20% non-physical damage, another 10%, that's 35, 45. So we have 45 damage of non-physical damage there. A lot of this stuff is non-physical damage. Damage to elites. Again, here, max life damage to elites. I see a lot of people skipping these nodes. However, I really do feel like these are good for now. It might scale better later when we have full level 21 glyphs. I do have to check in on that, so I might have to redo the board or at least take off from some of these nodes here. However, a lot of these, to me, are kind of impossible to get rid of unless we take less chilled damage. Chilled damage won't matter as much on bosses, so that's definitely something you could switch out. Some points there you could take out. A lot of this build is pretty universal with stuff to take out. I really do like this cold application, cold damage stuff here, and it just seems really hard to swap out any of these different boards here, especially for some of these legendaries like Frigid Fate. Barrier damage, Icefall is absolutely amazing for that board, and this one does have, we don't take these 2 last legendaries, so these boards could definitely be swapped out very easily, these last 2 here. I do have to look into that. However, I did hear that the enchantments are 20% stronger is pretty good, so we might go grab that eventually. However, looking at the other boards, a lot of them didn't have these damage to elite nodes. A lot of them didn't have these non-physical nodes, and I really do enjoy these. I mean, these are really good. We have a lot of non-physical damage nodes right here, and it's just a ton of damage increase. It's not conditional damage. I really don't like conditional damage. I think conditional damage really hinders, like damage to close, damage to things like that. So I really do like to have non-conditional damage increases, but again, it might scale better to go for a 6th board and try to grab another glyph socket. We'll have to see on that. However, I'm still hitting really, really high crits. You saw those 400, 500k crits in the intro, and so I'm still hitting those crits that everybody else is hitting, and my glyph sockets are not fully level 21 yet. A lot of them here, only one's 21. We have an 18, 15, 15, and another 15. But that is about covered for the video overall. If you have any questions on anything, I'm going to leave links to the build guide down below for the Paragon board and things like the glyph sockets, things like that. But if you enjoyed today's video, like and subscribe. Until the next one. Deuce.